Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into India's startup scene today.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And we've got this great editorial from UPSC to help guide our conversation today.
Looking forward to it.
I think this will be a really fascinating discussion. I was reading, getting ready for this, and over 30%
Wow.
of startups in Dubai
Really?
are founded by Indians.
That's amazing.
It's crazy, right? It really shows you how much global influence India has in this space.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The UPSC editorial talks about over 140,000 startups in India.
Huge number.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And 111 unicorns.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
What I'm curious about is what kinds of businesses are becoming unicorns?
Right.
What sectors are we talking about here?
So you're right. Fintech and e-commerce.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
The traditional ones. But we're actually seeing a surge in deep tech and AI.
Oh, wow.
So these are companies that are focusing on things like machine learning, data analytics, even space technology.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're attracting a ton of investment. What this tells me is that
Yeah.
India is really moving towards addressing these complex global challenges.
I see.
And they've got the talent to do it right. They have a strong STEM talent pool.
Right.
And their research capabilities are growing.
So it's not just about copying what's already out there.
Yeah.
It's about creating new stuff.
Yeah, pushing the boundaries.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Why is this happening, though? I mean, what's driving this growth?
Well, there are a few things. One is the government. They've created initiatives like Startup India that provide a supportive environment with things like tax breaks and simplified regulations.
Makes sense.
Then there's the digital infrastructure. It's expanding rapidly.
Right.
Over 820 million internet users in India.
That's a huge market.
It's massive. So you've got this combination of government support, a digitally savvy population, and this real focus on deep tech. It's kind of the perfect recipe for success.
It really seems like it.
Yeah.
But what does all this mean for the average person in India?
Well, for one thing, it's creating a lot of jobs.
Okay.
Not just in tech, but in other sectors too.
Like what?
Manufacturing, healthcare, education.
That's great.
Also, we're seeing innovative solutions to uniquely Indian challenges.
Okay.
Like things like agricultural efficiency and accessible healthcare.
So it's having a real impact.
It really is.
Yeah.
It has the potential to lift up entire communities and drive economic growth.
This is amazing stuff. But I know there are challenges too.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about those in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Stay with them.
Yeah, there are definitely some challenges facing India's startup ecosystem.
Like, what are the biggest ones?
Well, funding is a big one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The UPSC editorial mentions there's been a decline in investment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a global trend. Everyone's being more cautious.
So what can Indian startups do?
Well, they need to think outside the box. They need to look beyond traditional venture capital.
I see.
The editorial talks about things like revenue-based financing.
Revenue-based financing.
Yeah, basically instead of giving up equity, startups share a percentage of their revenue with investors.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it can be a good option, especially for early-stage companies.
Makes sense.
They want to maintain control.
Right.
But funding's not the only issue.
What else?
There are also regulatory challenges.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Things can be pretty unpredictable, and there's a lot of red tape.
So what can be done about that?
The editorial suggests a single window clearance system.
What does that mean?
Basically, it would streamline the whole process.
Make it easier for startups.
Exactly. It would save them time and money.
And hopefully attract more investment.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about funding and regulation, but what about the people?
The human element.
Yeah.
It's crucial.
The UPSC editorial mentions attracting and retaining top talent.
That's right. It's a global competition for talent.
Yeah. How can India keep up?
Well, competitive salaries are important, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also about creating the right environment.
Like what kind of environment?
One that fosters innovation.
Okay.
Where people feel valued and challenged and where they can grow professionally.
So basically making India the place to be for talented people.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about the connection between startups and academia?
Oh, that's a great point.
The editorial talks about that.
Yeah, imagine if research institutions were more involved in commercializing innovations.
I see what you mean.
Startups could benefit from the cutting-edge research.
Yeah, and the research would have a real-world impact.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Okay, so we've talked about talent.
Yeah.
What about geography?
You mean the urban-rural divide?
Yeah, the editorial mentions a dependence on urban markets.
Right.
What about the potential in rural India?
We can't ignore that.
So how do we tap into that potential?
We need to bridge the digital divide. Make sure rural areas have access to technology and resources.
That makes sense.
It's not just about creating a bigger market for startups.
Right.
It's about empowering rural communities.
So it's about making sure everyone benefits from this growth.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what about sustainability?
Another critical issue.
The editorial talks about encouraging sustainability-focused startups.
Yeah, as the ecosystem matures, sustainability becomes even more important.
So what kinds of startups are we talking about?
Renewable energy waste management, sustainable agriculture.
That's great.
It aligns with India's climate goals.
And it could make India a leader in sustainable innovation.
Exactly.
This is amazing stuff. I'm really excited about the future of India's startup ecosystem.
Me too. It's a really dynamic space.
But I know there are still more challenges to talk about.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We'll dig into those in the next part of our deep dive. All right, so we're back.
Yeah, back for more.
We were talking about deep tech before the break.
Yeah, how India can balance that domestic growth with global competitiveness.
Yeah, deep tech's a whole different ballgame.
It is. There are huge opportunities, but also some serious challenges.
So, like, what are the biggest challenges for Indian deep tech startups?
Well, one thing is that it takes a lot of money.
Makes sense.
You need capital investment, you need specialized infrastructure,
Right.
And then you've got to navigate all these international regulations.
So how can India help its deep tech startups succeed both at home and abroad?
The UPSC editorial had some good suggestions.
Like what?
Well, closer collaboration between academia, research institutions, and startups is key.
Okay.
You could have joint research projects, incubator programs, even venture funds specifically for deep tech.
I see. So it's about connecting those cutting-edge ideas with the people who can turn them into reality.
Yeah, exactly. It's about creating that pipeline from research to commercialization.
That makes sense.
Attracting foreign investment.
Of course.
India needs to show the world that it's a great place to invest in deep tech.
Right. It's got the talent, the research, the potential.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of talent mobility.
What does that mean?
Basically making it easier for skilled professionals from other countries to come and work in India.
Oh, I see. So bringing in the best and brightest from all over the world.
Yeah, because the best deep tech innovations often come from those diverse perspectives.
It's about collaboration.
Exactly.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It really has.
We've covered so much ground.
From funding to regulations to talent to sustainability.
And of course, the rise of deep tech.
Yeah, India's startup scene is really something special.
It really is. So what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think it's this: India's startup ecosystem is a force to be reckoned with.
I agree.
It's a testament to the country's entrepreneurial spirit, its innovation, and its determination.
Absolutely.
The decisions being made today will shape the future of this ecosystem.
So it's a story worth watching.
Definitely.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into India's startup scene.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you learned something new and maybe even got inspired.
Yeah, get out there and innovate.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.